Yeah, hi.
Hi Kashif. How are you? How are you?
Hi, Akin. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for asking. So, Kashif, can you just give me a quick intro about yourself and especially your exposure on the tech domain? So, I'll be able to understand your profile better.
Sure. So basically, first of all, this is my first time I'm engaging this mock-up interview and first time I'm engaging. So
Mm-hmm.
apologize in advance, just I'm not able to answer correctly or something, but I'm digesting whatever the information I will get.
Sure.
So starting from here, tell me about yourself, right?
Yep.
So I'm a certified business. So you have my resume in front of you?
Yes, I have. So, but again,
Okay, cool.
nothing better to listen from the man itself in terms of because again, I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, right. Sure. So, uh, first of all, thanks for your time, and it will be my pleasure to get in this interview to give overview about my skill sets and my
Mhm.
expertise where I am currently working on it. So, I am a certified Power BI lead and Azure data engineer. For last 15 years, I'm giving uh, reporting and dashboard solution to big and small companies, and I have worked with lot of different big and small companies where they are asking about to build some kind of interactive dashboards and reporting to give insight of for their data.
Mhm.
Recently, I am working in the Microsoft company where I am working with the legacy team, and inside this legacy team, they are building some kind of Q&A tool where they can capture some sensitive sentiment data along with the Q&A kind of data. And these are the mandatory data they are also looking for the system they are traveling. They are migrating from legacy to cloud environment. So they want to give some kind of attractive deals to make their legacy data promoted to the cloud side. So they want to see how much revenue we are getting, how the client is moving forward, are they interested or not interested during the migration, they are facing any challenges, what are their feedback, how they are happy, what kind of area they are facing the issues. So based on this requirement, the client was asked to build some kind of sentiment Q&A tool where we can figure it out to how we are doing and also leverage their data into the Power BI. So this is currently I am doing. The data source I am using as a SQL servers and the cloud storage, blob storage, and also the snaps. And some of the structured data, some of the unstructured data is also stored in SharePoint as well. So these are the currently structure I am using for my Power BI reports.
All right. Thank you for sharing. And how about your familiarity with Azure platform, Kashif?
I have a very good exposure on the Azure side. I have
Mm-hmm.
working on the local project and also the production project as well.
Great. Great to know that. Okay, let's start with let's have some couple of questions around the same. Okay.
Sure.
So let's say while you're integrating the Azure-based ML pipeline into any existing CI/CD workflow, okay, and while you're doing that, so you discovered that the pipeline breaks whenever a new model versions they are being pushed. So how would you design that to have a stable versioning and let's say whenever something breaks, a rollout strategy can be easily implemented? So how you're going to handle that?
So for this like a pipeline kind of thing in my field, in my project, I am using the data factory,
Okay.
which is also the part of the Azure.
Mm-hmm.
So in the data factory, I am connecting my data sources like as I says like a SQL Server and the storage blobs container to uh, my data lake where I am doing some ETL kind of work, and then data factory will be in tech over there to doing the transformation and cleaning the data. From there, once the data is clean, uh, I have stored the data into the data lake store, which is the uh, part of the my data sources. And during this architecture, I have also implemented some extra feature, which is like if the pipeline is break and it is not loading the data, so I have used the Logic app where it is automate to check the flow of the data. If there is a latency or data is break and is not uploading properly, it will trigger the email to the data owner so they can take action promptly.
Right? We can do that. And to enhance the answer, so what you can do is we can also talk about, let's say, the canary or shadow deployment that you can also work with. So because we can, if feasible, we can also try looking for deploying the new model along with the old one. And let's say we can also look at, let's say, routing the partial traffic, let's say around 10% to detect any kind of regressions that may be observed. And
Mm-hmm.
if we're using the explicit version models, like for example, where we are working with models, we can ensure that every model is registered as I said, model V1, model V2, and so on. So when we are working with the CI/CD, they can refer to that model version in a more explicit manner. So we'll
Okay.
be able to have a better rollback strategy. So we can say quickly revert using the previous image tag, the previous ML model ID, or the pipeline component version in that case. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's say you're deploying one AI solution, let's say, but again, after just 2 days in production, the interface, we can say API latency has increased, it has spiked in a more, we can say, unimaginable manner. Let's suppose, let's say around more than 10 times. So what are the steps, like the remediation steps you would take, first of all, to identify whether the issue is with, let's say, with the model, computation, networking, or the Azure services? And how would you solve that?
So it is a great question.
Mm-hmm.
I would divide this question into multiple stage. The first of
Mm-hmm.
all, I need to check where is the issue is. This issue is coming into the report side, or this issue is coming into the cloud side, or is this issue coming onto the uh, source side. So
Mm-hmm.
if the data is if the issue is coming from the Power BI report side, so I can go and I can see there is a option in the Power BI analyzer, Power BI query analyzer, where the system is giving you the insight for each visual, which query is taking more data to load, or where is the issue, if something is breaking or not. The if so I can get it from there. The second thing, I would definitely go to the schema, where I can check the complexity of the schema, how do we define the schema and the cardinalities and things. And for the optimization purpose, I should ensure the model should have the proper aggregated tables and summarized tables also part of the schema. Then if the problem or issue will come from the model side, so I will retrain my model to see where the problem is exists. Is this something data issue, or is this something fine tuning required? So these are the few steps I should go and check, and based on that, I will move forward to make the solution for that.
Great, absolutely correct. Because again, that's what we do. Because we always look for, let's suppose, we can check for the model warm up, okay, it has been completed or not. We can evaluate the CPU usage, the node auto scaling events to see if the issue is there. Is
Yes,
in the same way in
yeah,
right.
that's part I was forgot to mention. I also go to Azure Monitor, which is a part of the Azure, where
Correct.
I can check the scalability, monitor, GPU usage, and all the logs are defined over there. So I can take it the information and move from there.
Absolutely. And same thing we can do. For example, we have the Container Insights. We can also make use of the custom queries so that we can even correlate the events to see how they have happened. So as a more investigative, I guess, approach.
Mhm.
And okay, so let's say you have built one AI solution or service on, let's say, Azure Functions, but let's say there's something called as a cold start time, right? So that cold start time is, let's say, unacceptable for the real-time use cases. Is a lot. So what different alternatives we can use to, we can say that you can see if that is going to be something that we can use for replacing the solution, like any kind of architecture differences or any of the components?
Actually, I do not have a knowledge for this question. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. Thanks for that. So, mm, okay. Any exposure on the, let's say, some AI models like LangChain or RAG, something like that?
Yeah, as
Or
I
any kind of,
mentioned that, yes,
uh,
as I mentioned that I have done a couple of AI-powered models
right, right.
based on sentiment and Q&A kind of some of our local, some of the production.
Uh-huh.
For the production purpose, I have used LangGraph, and inside the LangGraph, I use the Streamlit.
Okay. So suppose if you're working on a LangChain based RAG bot, let's say your end users, they are reporting that again, it is returning, let's say, some outdated information that they did not expect. So how we can update the ingestion, indexing, and even caching strategies to fix this? Any
So
insight
I
on
will go and check into the Azure Machine Language Studio where I have defined some of the fine tuning. And I
that?
will make sure to go to the pipeline kind of stuff to make sure the data is trained and the fine tuning is there. And we
Mhm.
also give a little more specific knowledge base data ingest into the model so it can be more relative and reliable.
Absolutely. And since we can also include this part in the answer, let's say if here we're talking about, suppose, let's say, some outdated information. So we can also check the caching strategy as well.
Mm.
So, for example, we can also look for caching only the final LLM results, let's say for, let's say, 5 or 30 minutes. And we can even look for invalidating the cache whenever, let's say, any new data is ingested. So that can also be done to rectify this. Okay. Sorry. And let's say we are building something like a MLOps pipeline for multiple models. So how we can ensure that you are able to use some, let's say, reusable and some modular pipeline components so that we can avoid the duplication of the same if we are working on multiple projects.
Sure. So, like in Microsoft, I led the team who is working on the machine learning powered by Q&A board for a client.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest
Mm-hmm.
challenge was integrating the data from the multiple source, like a SQL Server and storage blobs and things. So the challenges I was facing, like how do I make accurate answers, clean up the data, and reliable related information will be there. So I coordinate with the engineers and define the pipelines into the Azure Data Factory, and I facilitated the model training using the Azure machine language.
Mm-hmm.
So in this sense, we ran into some challenge around the model performance. But iterated testing and model tuning, I have improved the bot and the accuracy was 25% up. And I was also encourage other team member to use the Azure ML to just for the model deployment and keep up to date information for how the system is working for the productivity base.
Right. And we can also include, because here, let's say you will be evaluated mostly on how we can create something that can be reused across multiple deployments, like multiple applications and multiple use cases. So, for example, let's say in terms of creating the reusable components, what we can do is in terms of, let's say, the for example, suppose if we talk about the, let's say, shared library. So we can create one shared Python library for the reusable code. We can go ahead and, let's say, parameterize everything to make sure the pipeline remains the, we can say, model agnostic. It doesn't matter if you are going to suppose choose from XGBoost or LGBM or transformer, so they can be independent. So for example, let's say here we have to make sure every pipeline should support parameters like we had data set path, the versions, the model type, the pre-processing type, the deployment target, like we had planned to deploy this on AKS or managed endpoints or functions. Because if you're not hard coding them, we are simply defining them as parameters, so they can be easily used with different values for different use cases, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And same maybe you also have the ML pipeline templates. So we can create that the YAML-based templates, and we can store that in a central repository. So we can, and then we can provide, let's say, even a configuration file. So that's not going to be the entire pipeline definition. So that can read the parameters, and then that can be used to stitch together with all the reusable components that we have created. And we can even maintain our own model registry. So they can go ahead and be reused, suppose in training, testing, or the production environment, even if we are talking about different applications. So these things can
Okay.
also be included as the answer. Okay.
Okay.
So any questions you may have for me, Kashif, from your side?
Uh, I know I'm currently in very beginning stage of the interviews,
Mhm.
but where I should focus more and what will be the improvement area from my side.
See, improvement as in, so as you have, so you can, let's, if, for example, let's say you have some gaps in terms of the core services. Like for example, we had talked about the Azure functions, right? So in
Mhm.
terms of the event-driven setup, so you can just try to explore that. For example, that's not the all services because that won't make any sense. But again, on the core services, like we have Azure functions, how we can work with the warm start, the cold start period here. Let's say if you have to focus more on the performance optimization. So let's suppose if we are going to we have a requirement for performing this optimization for a poorly performing model, but again with the limited resources. Let's say we have limited GPU access. So how would you solve that? The right approach, the concept of batching, the, we can say how we can work the prompt engineering. So just make yourself a bit more familiar with the core services, not at a depth level, but again how we can use that with the same ML flow pipeline. So I think that will be good enough for now, Kashyap.
Mhm. So how do we one of the question mostly the people ask in the interview, how do you migrate resources from dev to production?
See, we parameterize this. Suppose here, if you talk about the dev to production, so again, as we discussed, we create the platform agnostic pipelines, right? So that we can send, because again, the core components remain the same. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with, let's say, just like we have Helm in Kubernetes. Are you familiar with that? Like Helm
No.
charts? No worries. So just a small concept. For example, we use Helm to maintain different environments for if you're having a large scale containers running in terms of Kubernetes, like for production, staging, and development, so that we don't have to create the same pipeline, the same resources again and again. So what
Mhm.
we can, so same thing we can do in here. For example, if we are going to work with different models, definitely we are going to start with the branching strategy in grid, right? So we can have a different, we can say branches defined, for example, for dev, release, features, and so on. And then in order to make the entire code reusable or can say easy to deploy, we can definitely make use of the infrastructure as a code service. Like we have Azure Resource Manager templates. If we are deploying especially on Azure, we have the ARM templates that we refer as the ARM templates, just like we had Terraform. So we
Mhm.
can use that for building the entire infrastructure so that we can make sure that even the deployment can have, it means if you are going to have n number of deployments, then they are all going to be consistent if we are using the pipeline, the template based approach, right? That can be maintained. And that's how we can even set up the multi-environment CI/CD pipeline. So for example, suppose we can have a CI in such a way that it can run on every commit as opposed on static analysis when we are building the images, We are validating the Terraform syntaxes as a part of code and so on. And then we can have a same platform specific configurations by using different parameters. We only have to change the configuration. For example, we are having a separate key vault for handling all the API tokens and secrets, different tokens and secrets for staging, for production, and so on. So we just the moment we change the parameters, that can be easily streamlined. So these things
Mm,
are something that you should be familiar with. That's it.
I see. And uh, uh, once you going for the deploying the project on the production,
Mhm.
what is the platform you have used? This is the one of the question was asked previously. Like you use
Which plat?
Terraform, you use something like that.
See, mostly we try to maintain a template. Just like we have the Terraform, or for especially for Azure, we use the ARM templates. But again, for deployment, we had to choose the endpoint. When we say deployment in context with the ML pipeline cycle, we have to choose the platform, just like how we choose how the application will be made available to our end user. So if we want to use the AKS, which is what we use for the performance to maintain that performance to price ratio, you have the Azure Kubernetes service. So we can
Mm,
deploy the entire, we can say model as a part of it. We can say we can have all the images being stored to our ACR, and then we can manage them easily. Or if we are going to have the ML native production deployments, we can use their own pipeline. If we are going to build the solution as a event-driven setup. So suppose the model should be executed only when, let's suppose someone uploads something, some events happen. In that case,
mm,
we can make it as a function-based setup. And on top of it, we can have the API gateway. We can even, and suppose if we don't need the large scale orchestration, in that case, we can go for the container apps and so on. So this way we'll be able to streamline that. Okay.
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 A lot
Do
of
share that as a share some references, post a call with the team, so they'll be sharing the course.
yes,
Okay.
please. That's what I was asking because a lot of new things I'm hearing first time. It is I need some time and references to so I can go thoroughly and memorize them and do some like a Q&A kind of things with myself.
Sure, no worries. I'll share that the documentation, so I can use it as a good reference for next about knowing more on what we had discussed today. I'll share that.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much.
No problem.